Why South Sudan? An Every Village podcast where we answer questions about the world's youngest nation. The question of the day is, how did you design the SWC program? Hey everyone, my name is Tiana Johnston and I'm the host of this podcast called Why South Sudan. We have somebody super special in the studio today, and I know I say that every time with Andrew, but this person I actually referred to on the last episode, but I called him Brother Brad, but we have Brad Beless here today.
Hello, good to be here.
This is so funny. It's fun to do a podcast with you now.
Yes, and by the way, Tiana is the only person who calls me Brother Brad.
That is true. So maybe, I don't know if anybody else should call you that.
No, people are welcome, but it's so far just you.
That's true. I believe I explained how you're technically younger than me, but I consider you an older brother, so it's fun times. So I would love for us to start out with you just kind of giving your history, with how long you've been with Every Village, what's your role, kind of how did God even bring you to work with Every Village?
Sure. Yeah, so my wife and I, we joined Every Village in 2014, and it was late that year in the fall of 2014 that we moved to South Sudan, to Tanj specifically, as missionaries.
Woohoo!
And ever since then, we've been serving with Every Village, and in many different capacities. We spent 2 years in South Sudan as missionaries, and then we moved back to Houston to work out of the home office. And I've had a couple different roles since being back in the U.S., but right now I'm the operations director, so I help with a lot of the admin and logistics of implementing our programs in South Sudan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, how did you first get connected to Every Village? Like, how did you even hear about it?
Yeah. I went to A&M, as well as Andrew and some others with Every Village. But it wasn't until after I graduated that we heard about Every Village. I was looking into options of going overseas, and we were in discussion with a few organizations. And because of that desire, my wife and I went back to A&M for a missionary fair, or just a time during breakaway where they were bringing in other organizations to advertise their positions. And so we went back to A&M one night to go to that missionary fair, and that's when we met Andrew and Every Village.
Oh, that's so, I literally didn't even know that.
Yep.
I've known you wait, how long have you been with staff? So you started 2014. That's 10 years.
Yes, 10 years.
Wow, 10 years. Mm-hmm. That's pretty impressive.
Yep.
So question 2. So when y'all left the field, did you think you were going to stay on with Every Village, or kind of were you open to, we don't really know what God has for us kind of thing?
Yeah, we really enjoyed our 2 years in South Sudan. It don't want to sugarcoat it. It was not easy, but we were passionate about the people and the work, and so we certainly wanted to stay on and continue doing those things. So I asked Every Village if there was another position available for me to work with, apart from being a missionary in South Sudan, and they said yes. So that's when I transitioned to be more of on the water program side, specifically looking into the water programs when I moved back to Houston originally. And so that's where I had the time and space to kind of think and design what we were doing on the water side.
That's so cool. I just love, that was totally the Lord's hand in all of that. And just even living over there, you saw firsthand how hard it is for the South Sudanese to even have access to safe water. Mm-hmm. And I know with the SWC program, you were the creator, like you were the one that had the vision for it, and it's just grown and morphed and actually come to life, over these last few years. And so it's really, really awesome. So I would love for you to share with our listeners, one, what is the SWC program? What does it even stand for? And kind of like, how did you even have the vision or the heart behind it?
Yeah. So the SWC that Tiana's been referring to is Sustainable Water Cooperative. And I'm sure I'll get into more of what those words mean. But to talk about the creation, I'll have to go back and explain some of the steps leading up to where we are today. So when I was in South Sudan in Tanj, it was a really great opportunity to see things and see the reality of what things were like on the ground. And it wasn't long before I realized that, things are tough. And we have this idea from America and from other countries where we can donate and give for certain projects, say, for example, drilling a water well. But oftentimes we don't think about what happens after that project is implemented or finished. And spending time in South Sudan, I realized and I saw firsthand how often these projects are implemented, again, taking the drilling of a water well as an example. And if maintenance and if repairs and the system to do those things aren't considered, then very quickly those water wells, as we're going in this example, break down and they start not working as they should. And so it's just a challenge that's not often thought about, but something I couldn't ignore as I was seeing it firsthand. And while I was in South Sudan in 2015, I actually, with the help of some of our staff, did a bit of a research project where I sent our staff to do surveys of 155 water wells throughout the Tanj area, just to see the results of where the status of, just generally the status of water wells in South Sudan in our area. And that was really formative for me because I saw that the result from that research was that only 1/3, about 33% of the water wells in Tanj were functioning as they should. So as the community go and pump the handle to get water, only 1/3 of those wells were functioning properly.
Wow.
Yeah, another third of them were completely not working, so broken and no water access. And then the other third were working in some capacity, but needed maintenance, needed repair to become fully functional for the community to access water. So that's, after doing that research and confirming what I was just seeing with my eyes, it really led me to become passionate about this particular problem and what to do about it.
I love that. I love that every village is a ministry, as we have morphed and changed over the years, that they were willing to listen to you and saying, like, this is what you've seen and this is an error that we're having in our system. And, what could we do, to really change that and to have a greater impact. And also for our supporters that are giving to these wells and, wanting to drill, which drilling is so important. But I think repairing isn't something a lot of people do. So we'd love to know your thoughts on that, of, the repair aspect of the SWC program.
Yeah, definitely. Very much thankful to every village and the leaderships, especially during that time coming off of my years in South Sudan, realizing this, because at the time we had a drilling program and we were drilling a lot of wells. But I was kind of raising the alarm of, okay, it's great to drill these wells and I don't want to diminish that impact. It's huge. But what do we do after we drill to keep those wells going? And if we don't have an answer to that question, does it make sense to continue to drill? Or should we put a pause on drilling while we figure out, okay, let's get a handle, get something working on the repair side, so that and maintenance side, so that we know that, the tens of thousands of dollars we're spending on drilling is going to be helping communities for years and years to come. So really thankful that every village and its leadership was receptive to that idea. And so I was kind of a proponent of trying to figure this piece out. And there's a lot to say on the drilling side, and a lot to say on the repair side. And I don't think I need to go too technical or too in depth. But in general, these hand pumps that are used in South Sudan are manufactured in India, and the parts and supplies are shipped over from India to all over the world, in our case, South Sudan. And like any mechanical system, parts are moving, things get worn out, especially when you introduce water into it, things start to rust over time. And like any mechanical item, things break down, things wear out as they should, as in some cases as they're designed to. And so what I was seeing in South Sudan, that you could have a brand new hand pump that goes into these water wells so that people can have access. And even after about 6 months, things are starting to need maintenance or repair. And it's a bit shocking to think about for someone, or for donors or for organizations who drill new water wells, that, okay, the assumption is that that new water well would last years without needing anything. It'd just be fine. But what I was seeing on the ground, at least in my case in Tanj, South Sudan, was that really after 6 months, it was needing maintenance. And then by a year, if it wasn't having some sort of service, then it was certainly at risk of breaking down. So that's what I was seeing. And that's why I said we need something to address this.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it really, really is needed. And this is one reason why I love doing the podcast, because it just reminds me of the why we do what we do, and also just the way that God uses every village. And I'm just so grateful that, one, I mean, just to see the story play out about you even going to A&M and wanting to do missions and, working in the water, I guess, arena. I don't even know what to call it.
Sector, maybe?
Sector, there we go. And then, going overseas to be a missionary, and for you to see firsthand, like, hey, this is a huge error, and this is what we need to do. And now, I mean, because how long has the SWC program been live and launched?
Yeah, we were piloting it back in 2021, and I think officially launched in 2022. So it's only been a couple of years, full scale. But yeah, it's been really successful so far. Kind of, I guess, before I go fully into what we have today, just backing up slightly in how that realization that I saw from my time in the field transitioned into this program that we have today. It was a fortunate instance where I was still in East Africa. Tiana and I were teammates, and we would spend some time most of our time in South Sudan, but we would also spend some of our time in Kampala as a chance to kind of regroup and restock. And towards the end of my 2 years in East Africa, there was a international water conference in Kampala, Uganda, which was an amazing opportunity. It was just, I guess, God's providence, but I was able to go to that, and the emphasis during that year was designing or taking a systematic approach. So considering designing our programs to look at the big picture, the systems that are at play. And that had a big impact on me in terms of what I wanted to, or how I wanted to design and implement systems on the water side with every village. And so it was at that conference, I also met another organization that's in Kampala called WAVE. And, I'm not that smart of a person, so I saw what WAVE was doing in Uganda and really liked their approach. And that's kind of where the seed was planted for me in terms of how to design and how to work in the context of South Sudan, because WAVE has a lot of the same components of what I've incorporated into SWC with every village, but they're in the Uganda context, which is much different from the South Sudan context. So there was a lot of adaptation and kind of talking with our team on the ground to see what would actually work in South Sudan. Yeah, so it was those kind of components coming together. Definitely the importance of taking a systematic approach, of seeing the big picture, all the different stakeholders, all the different parts that were needed to have a repair and maintenance program in South Sudan, and not making it just about every village. I mean, the temptation or the way that it would be easy to do it is just have every village fill in all the parts that are needed. But I didn't want to implement a program like that. I wanted to see what was available and what stakeholders were capable in South Sudan. And part of the program is to help support and bolster those stakeholders, and then fill in the parts that were not available, to fill in the gaps to make the water system work in a way that could maintain these water wells. So that's a little bit of the background of where I got my ideas, because, again, I'm not that smart. It's nothing original. It's more of just seeing what other people are doing and adapting it to our setting in South Sudan.
That's awesome. That's really good. I appreciate the humility, but also too, I mean, yeah, like the Lord strategically used you very much. So, yeah, that is so so good. And so now I wanted to know if you have any like current stats or anything that you would even share, or just even seeing the growth of SWC program in South Sudan, and yeah, just seeing how much it's been.
Yeah,
It's been
definitely.
great.
It has. It's been great. And so to do that, I guess it's time for me to explain what SWC actually means. Sustainable Water Cooperative. The sustainable part is about, of course, finances. So we want it to be sustainable from a financial standpoint. Every village, we're a nonprofit, so we're not looking to make money, but we're hoping for communities to have a buy-in with the programs. This is a part of what development means in every village. We're a development organization. It's about building communities up and not just giving things to them. So from a community level, we want them to have participation and buy-in, and that looks like supporting the work financially. So that's part of the sustainability piece, but also sustainability to me is about the sustainability of the program going into the future, and that an important component to that is the sustainability of the leadership and the management of that program. So we don't want it to be run by Americans or myself. We want to develop and grow our staff, our national staff in South Sudan, so that they can become the leaders and managers of this program. And so that's the sustainability side. The water is obvious. We want to provide access to clean and to safe water in South Sudan to communities. And then the cooperative is kind of the word describing that systems-based approach. We want there to be a cooperative of pump mechanics, of communities, of the government, of our staff from an organizational level, of also supply chain. And so you don't want it just to be, as I said before, about every village, and we're not there to fill in all the pieces, but we're there to see the pieces that are missing or broken and fill in those pieces at the same time as inviting the other stakeholders in so that that they can learn and grow to be a part of that water sector and help in the maintenance and repair of the water wells. So that's kind of an explanation of what the SWC means. And to the question of how it's been going, it's been going really well. I think year after year, we've been seeing a higher percentage of financial sustainability of financial buy-in. So in terms of our income versus expenses, I think like last year we were 30% funded locally from communities, and this year I think we're at about 60%. So we're definitely growing to the point where in the near future it could be 100%
Wow.
financially sustained by communities. And
Praise God.
yeah, it's amazing. People don't think it, but they have the capacity to give money, and oftentimes people don't ask, and they just give things, and that repeats the kind of the system where, if they're constantly given things, then they're not going to think they have the capacity to give, but they do, and it really gives them a sense of ownership, and just recognition that they're a part of this solution. And so that's from the financial side. The average cost of repairing the well is it's currently around $200. It's even a little bit less now. So each repair, in terms of the cost of parts and of the labor of mechanics, is down to about just under $200 per well. So that's kind of the summary and statistics. I think we've repaired since the beginning. I don't want to misquote, but I think we're reaching about to 1,000 repairs in total, all time. And so there's been a lot of repairs, but that's not just big rehabilitations. That can be, as part of the SWC, that can be, small $10 part here, just quick and easy repairs as well. And so as a part of the SWC, just to describe the program in general, communities who are interested or who we've advertised our program to, they can come in those communities who are around a water well can sign a SWC agreement, which is a contract in which they are required to pay a certain fee, which our goal is about 50 cents or half a dollar per household per month. So $6 per year per household is our goal in terms of target costs. And so they sign that agreement for 12 months, and our side of the agreement is to maintain and repair that borehole, hopefully maintain it to the point where it never fails completely during those 12 months of the service agreement. But if it does fail at any point, our expectation is that we'll be there to repair it within just a day or two. So by them contributing financially, they're getting a guarantee of reliable water for that community, which, as I'm sure has been talked about, is a huge factor and many fronts for the women and for the children, for health. And so that's the basis of the program. So it's through that program where we're doing all of these repairs. Like I said, some are major and some are just checking in. And we have certain thresholds that we like to meet. For example, if this is a hand pump well, and so people come up to the well and they pump a handle, and that brings water. And for example, of some of the repairs that we'll do is sometimes if there's a leak in the pipes down in the water well, you'll have to pump the handle a long time to bring the water out. And so one of our thresholds is that if anytime the community has to pump the handle more than 15 times to bring water out, that would initiate an automatic repair. And it's not a failed hand pump at that point. They're still having access to water, but it's becoming an inconvenience for them, and more challenging. And it's a recognition that the hand pump is on the trajectory towards failure. And so we want to maintain that before it breaks. And so that's a part of the agreement as well, is the communities and the pump mechanics who are contracted can be monitoring those hand pumps so that they're maintained before they ever fail. That's the goal, at least.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so good. I did have one question. I'm trying to think of to date, staff-wise, how many pump mechanics versed? I know we do have like water outreach teams. Like how many are on staff for the water program?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our teams with Every Village, we have about 11 water staff. That's split between 3 different locations, so almost 4 water staff per location. And some of those staff are specialized on the pump mechanic side, but they're actually not the ones who are supposed to be doing the repairs themselves. So as I mentioned earlier with the systems-based approach, there are South Sudanese who have been trained over the years in doing pump repair. And so we take the approach of contracting kind of as a third party those pump mechanics. And so every year, to help increase their capacity, and also from our side to ensure we're hiring or contracting those pump mechanics who know what they're doing and can do a good job, we host pump mechanic trainings every year and give the pump mechanics who are wanting to work with us the certification annually, so we can just check in and make sure they're approved to do the work with us. And so we have a list of pump mechanics in the 3 different areas that we have certified and trained to work with us. And so if there's ever a repair, I like to think of our staff at Every Village as kind of the quarterback or the facilitators of the repair. They're the one who are helping to oversee the system in general, being the communities, to make sure they know who to call or who to contact in terms of if there is an issue or if they have something to communicate, and helping to coordinate the pump mechanics. And we once we certify and make agreements with a pump mechanic, then we'll assign them to certain water wells in a geographic area that they're going to be monitoring monthly. And so if there's ever a issue with any of the water wells in that area, then our guys will communicate with the pump mechanics and arrange the spare parts that are needed and the transportation that's needed for the pump mechanics, those who are not every village staff, but contracted third party, to come in and do the repair themselves. And then our guys are there to observe and record information and collect surveys alongside our outreach guys who are there for the ministry purposes as well. So that's kind of how it's all facilitated. Each area has 10 to 15 kind of those third-party pump mechanics that they work with. I'm not sure the exact number at the time, but somewhere north of 30 across our 3 locations are the National South Sudanese pump mechanics who we have a relationship and we've trained and certified to work with the SWC program.
That's really awesome. I do admit I actually just learned some things about the SWC program. Yeah. So I'm glad that we have went into great detail. Yeah. Okay, I have 2 more questions. So first is, do we only repair Every Village wells?
That's how we started back in the piloting days in 2021. Every Village has drilled 156 and counting wells. And so at that point, we really wanted to prioritize the wells that we had drilled as a part of this program. But we've grown since then. And at this point, it is all water wells are open and all communities can have access to the SWC program. So there's no condition in terms of Every Village or drilled by anyone else. And we don't have complete information on what kind of numbers of water wells there are in the areas that we service, but it could be upwards of 2,000 water wells. And of course, about a third of those are not going to be functioning. And we've had many communities come to us with not functioning water wells. And as a part of the SWC, we help to do that initial repair to get it functioning and then sign the agreement to sustain it from that point. So yes, even where we currently work in the 3 areas, upwards of 2,000 communities is kind of the threshold right now. And we hope to continue to increase and grow our access through SWC.
That's amazing. That's really incredible and something I'm very proud of. Okay, and my last question, I know Andrew, or the times before on the episode, we've talked to Andrew about kind of what is the direction that we're heading into. So I'd love to know your thoughts on, with the SWC program specifically, where are we headed? Yeah. When
I was originally thinking about this program, that was a question I was really wrestling with is, what's the end game in this program? How do we see it long term? And I was really thinking, and the intention is still that this can be a program that could at one point be independent of Every Village once it has, like I mentioned, the financial and the leadership sustainability. It could get to the point where some of our employees basically are given or buy this program and start operating it as a business. I think we're still a little ways off from that. I think South Sudan as a country and as an economy need to develop a little bit more for that to be feasible. But we've seen examples of businesses that were started and funded by organizations and then turned into businesses later. For example, there's a solar energy company in South Sudan that we work with a lot and who have helped install systems for Every Village. And they were started and funded by an American originally, as I understand the story. But now they're a successful, profitable solar business that is run and operated by South Sudanese. And so, that's still kind of a little bit of dreaming forward, and we don't have all the details of how that would work or how that would look like. But that's the vision, and we have a lot of guys who have really started operating and running the SWC program on their own with very little input from my end at this point. And so from a leadership standpoint, we're certainly there. Well, we're close to there. And I think it's the economy and some of the details on that end that are still at work to get to that point. But that's what I would love to see. And if ever that happened, then of course there would still be the collaboration between Every Village's other programs, our outreach program and our radio program, to continue to come alongside. But to see it operating as an independent South Sudan organization or business rather would be the end goal for me.
Oh, that's so cool. That just gets me fired up. That is so good. I love it because it's empowering the South Sudanese. I mean, it's everything that we say that we believe and desire for the ministry, and it's really coming to see it one day, happen.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't credit South Sudan enough. Oftentimes, you hear the bad news, and it's cool for me to have a relationship with our team and to see the positive, and to see these guys and these men and women who really have a high capacity and know what they're doing and are excited to see South Sudan develop. And so we at some point want to hand over the reins and tell them go and do it. So that's the goal.
I love it. Oh, it's so good. Well, thanks so much for coming on today. It's been really fun to have you in the studio. Thanks for sharing your heart. Thanks for being faithful to the Lord. Thanks for being 10 years with Every Village.
Oh, well, thanks, Deanna.
Pretty amazing.
I think yours is coming up soon, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm 8 years. Yeah.
Okay. Well, soon enough.
Yes. So we invite everyone back to the next episode as we have somebody coming into the studio to answer the question, what does South Sudan mean to you? Take care.